Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. How you doing, Eric?
Good, good. I got it working here.
Good.
Get down to
Yeah,
where.
that's.
There
Can you
we
hear
go.
me?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. We were just listening to a couple of your tunes here, enjoying the music. You sound great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
awesome. You're coming out to space, and it looks like tables are already sold out. Like tickets are moving.
Yeah, yeah. I think we do have some seats left in the GA, but yeah, it's looking good.
That's always a good feeling to know a room's going to be nice and full for you when you show up, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's the biggest. I think the biggest, relief of a tour.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, being a musician, you do the music part and you get the music going, but you also sometimes, I'm sure, push things on Facebook and have to promote for yourself. And I'm sure you have people that do that too, but it's kind of nice when you can just let go and be like, all right, that gig's good, you know?
Yeah, well, we'd like it to be sold out. We're not going to stop, trying to make sure everybody knows about it, because if it as long as there's some space for some other folks, we're try to get them out.
Yeah, keep inviting people. I love that. And that's why we're here today too, to let people know about who you are and what you're up to. Um, so basically from Louisiana, right? You grew up in Louisiana?
Yeah, I was born in Alexandria, Louisiana, but I've spent most of my life now in New Orleans, and it's been my musical home, and the place that always felt like home. And yeah, other than a brief period overseas, I've spent most of my life in Louisiana.
That's beautiful. So, how far is Alexandria from New Orleans?
It's about 3.5 hours. It's
Okay,
it's in the middle of the state.
got you. So that was a place for you to probably go and meet people and play when you were starting out?
In New Orleans.
Yeah, from
Yeah, I mean,
Alexandria.
yeah, I came, I was coming down to New Orleans like playing shows, even when I was still in high school and stuff, sitting in with different bands and I had a little blues band at the time, and then I kind of went into rock music. Um, my college years and stuff, I kind of forayed into just exploring my sound and stuff and did a couple of different projects. But but New Orleans was always really where all that flourished and you know, I kind of came down here as soon as I could and stayed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so is that where you reside now? Is New Orleans?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
Um, yeah, like I said, I've been here most of my life, and this is home. I really, I, you know, usually just tell people I'm from New Orleans because that's what that's been the bulk of my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, being a musician or a young person who wants to learn music and being so close to that epicenter, being in Chicago, it's the same thing. It's like there's people you could go find to play with, and not only are they around, but it sounds like your family, everyone in your family was somehow musical, or most people, your grandfather, your grandmother. Tell us a little bit about your grandparents and how they influenced you through music.
Oh yeah. So my grandfather on my mom's side had a music store, and he's m mainly pianos and organs. But they did piano tuning, and they sold pianos, and I would just hang out around the store. I mean, I have so many like memories of being a kid, just like hiding under pianos and running around the store and just like spinning. I would go there after school, and they didn't really they didn't really have a guitar section in the store, but he was able to get a guitar, I guess, for a price that was affordable for us or something. And we so I got a guitar pretty young. Didn't really know what to do with it, but it, for a while. But it, that definitely I was always around the music and yeah, my grandfather played clarinet in the like I guess in the Navy, jazz band, and my grandmother, she played piano and sang in the choir and stuff. And then all of their kids, including my mom, my aunts and uncles, they all did music in some fashion or another. Not usually for a first profession, uh, but a couple of them tune pianos for a living and stuff, or have off and on. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of, there's music all around. Um, and that tended to go to the extended family as well. Like, we had family friends and stuff that played. And so, at Christmas, there would be a big jam usually somewhere. And, Christmas Eve jam, that type of thing. So I kind of was able to get some of my first up close and really, personal experiences with music and seeing people play and joining in with the family. So that definitely I feel like gave me a place to start from and to kind of play with musicians that had been playing longer than me rather than just playing with other kids or something.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's always fun to be a kid running around a store that your parents own or grandparents own, but for it to be a music store, be running around underneath the pianos and checking things out as a kid.
Yeah.
That's a really cool memory to have. And, really cool that they found you a guitar, even though you didn't know what to do with it at first. Um,
Yeah.
but so when was that guitar given to you? And then by what age were you ready to play or starting to play?
I would say, I got a guitar. I don't remember not wanting one. So I got one at about 5, and I really, I would say like around 11 and 12 is when I started having some older friends that could show me how to pick out some songs I liked on the radio, and just I never really took lessons, but I had one older friend in particular that would help me pick out, a song, like a Metallica song or something, and he would show me what the riff was. And then I started to learn that I could do that I could, just listen to a record and pick out what the notes were and start to teach myself albums. And then that was like all I did on, weekends, Saturdays, and after school and stuff. I would just sit there and I would listen to whatever my favorite record was at the time, which at first was a lot of heavier stuff. But uh, I would sit there and just learn all the riffs on the record. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And then at some point, I started discovering, I just got more into guitar and then started discovering like, Joe Satriani and like some different people that really kind of made me want to learn a little bit more about just how scales and modes worked and all that. But then when I really kind of, got digging further into what those guitar players said influenced them, it always ended up at the blues. And when I started digging into that stuff, I just really, I just kind of got bitten by that. I mean, eh, there was something that really spoke to me, Freddie King and Stevie Ray Vaughan, Buddy Guy, and so I started kind of leaning more in that direction rather than the heavier music. And that combined with being able to sit in with, the older cats like in a blues jam or something like that, and learning how, just this amazing feeling of improvising in the moment with other musicians. You could kick off a blues song and kind of know where you were at, but take it somewhere. Um, and that really inspired me. So, at some point, all of those things started to fuse together, and these days, I feel like there's definitely elements that people can hear in what I do that still are a little heavier or a little more rock rock and roll vibe. But I feel like I try and express myself with a honesty and rawness that is makes it blues as well, or bluesy.
Absolutely. I like that. I think that's awesome. So some of these harder bands that you were into starting out, like Metallica, Megadeth, some of those type of bands.
Yep, those were two of them. White Zombie, I was really into White Zombie. And then I got into just, Ministry and Nine Inch Nails and Tool and Soundgarden and, all that stuff. So I was really into a lot of that. But also Hendrix, I was still, the thing is, my mom was always listening to like Etta James and like, you know, just Otis Redding and stuff. And I liked it. I mean, I wasn't like, it was kind of like, we had to share the stereo at times, especially if we were taking a road trip or something like that. It couldn't be my stuff all the time. So I was always hearing this other stuff. And I think it, uh, worked its way in there. Because when I finally started to bridge the gap between what I liked about expressing myself with the guitar, and I started to feel how w rock music connected to soul music and blues and everything, I think a lot of that stuff was already in there. It wasn't totally foreign to me because again, she was listening to B.B. King, she was listening to, you know, um, Etta James and Irma Thomas and these people. So and the Neville brothers and all that, even people that I ended up crossing paths with later. Um, she was listening to that stuff. So it was in there. So I kind of I think you're always influenced by like everything I think that you hear.
Oh yeah, and I think it's a blessing that our parents listen to music around us because it does seep in, even at first if we're like, oh no, I just like Megadeth and Metallica,
Yep.
where I was
Yep.
like, I just like rap music, Mom. I'm not into Neil Young. But then it starts to seep in, and you start to take that in as well. I'm sure your mother was quite happy when you crossed paths with the Neville brothers. You've played with them before. Tell us a little bit about your journey with the Nevilles.
Yeah, it's funny, I just I mean they're this, royalty in New Orleans. I mean just the musical legacy of the Neville brothers, the Meters, who, were just more or less invented funk music. I mean, pioneers of funk music here. And the members of the Meters, the Art Neville and Cyril and obviously they're Aaron and Charles, they formed the Neville brothers. And I mean, all of that stuff relates to so many different cultural things here in New Orleans. But I was a big fan, and I remember somebody made contact and introduced me with Willie Green, who was the drummer of the Neville brothers for decades. And he was really into the rock band that I was doing at the time. So it was a funny way of kind of getting into that camp. So I started jamming with Willie a little bit on some rock stuff just for fun. And then, he was bringing me around. He was playing also with Cyril Neville with his own thing, the Uptown All Stars at the time. And so I was kind of like, I was always a big fan of Cyril. I always just his voice was probably my favorite in of the brothers. And so I got to, start seeing some Neville Brothers shows and everything. Then I started playing with Cyril sometime later. And actually, Cyril brought me out to play with the Neville Brothers at Jazz Fest. Um, and so yeah, and I toured around with Cyril a bit and became good friends with him. So I just took so much from that because I mean there's so much rhythm and just the guitar plays a little bit of a different role in a lot of that New Orleans music. It's more percussive, and that was really instructive to me. Percussive in a different way than the rock music that I'd come from, which was also could be percussive with the riffs and stuff like that. But this was more, um, yeah, like play like the guitar in the funk music, New Orleans funk, it plays a really important like rhythmic role. And so I got a lot of that from them. Um, and yeah, just, I mean that whole funk New Orleans thing, I think it's worked its way into what I do a lot more than people maybe realize on the surface. Because I'm always trying to make things a little funkier than than they might be
Yeah,
otherwise.
as I say, a little funkier, a little more dirty. You've got that kind of
Yeah.
harder edge, but still accessible and still loving. It's like the Deep and the Dirty. We're listening to that record. That was your most recent full length, right, from 2023.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's got elements of all of that in it. And then the live cut that just came out, same thing. It just feels like a lot of these different genres that you've been influenced by are seeping into one show. So you're not just seeing a straight blues show, you're seeing, amalgamation of everything that's kind of shaped your musical history.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's never really been my interest to do a throwback retro thing. I always feel like maybe the fact that I'm playing electric guitar and we're a straight ahead power trio band, there's a bit of a throwback just inherent to that because there's stuff that people will compare it to from the early 70s, and I like those comparisons. But, ultimately I'm just trying to kind of make original music drawing upon the things that have inspired me in whatever natural way that they come together. And so that includes, the jam band world, the Allman Brothers, and Government Mule and Derek Trucks and a lot of the things that inspire me in that vein. But also, there's a little bit of that 90s rock element that you probably hear in there. But
Totally.
combined with just bluesy influences, Delta influences, Son House and Mississippi Fred McDowell and Robert Johnson and all that stuff. So yeah, I try to just have it land wherever it lands. And you know, I have continued to find that if I'm into all these different things, then I can't be the only one. So I shouldn't really box in the music very much because uh, it's where all these things intersect for me that make my particular voice or my particular style. And so I should just let them continue to 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 mix together. And so that's yes, that's what we try and do.
Yeah, and I would say that all of those things can be apparent if I know them, but it's not like I'm like, oh, you sound like one of these things. It's all of this like to make your own sound. And I think, you know, I mean, you can see here, we've got all these records behind me. Like, this is a freeform station, so we're supposed to do six genres an hour. So when we have artists who are taking all their different genres and kind of letting them influence, a certain genre like the blues, there's just so much room to jump into what you love and be able to kind of stretch out and be able to hone your sound in from all those influences. So I think, it's a really fresh feeling on the blues, but it's your own sound. So you've honed in on your own sound from the funk world, from the 90s world, from, all these bands you've said, those are all things that I love that you wouldn't know right away that just, oh, he's a blues guy, he loves that stuff. But then, you kind of are showcasing it in such a way that it makes me excited to be like, well, what else does this guy like? What else could he do from those influences? So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's always be a more challenge to describe when you just kind of let it go like that rather than you go, we're traditional this or we're this meets this or whatever. I think it can be trickier to turn people on to what's different. But I just kind of uh I just trust in people's ears and people's
Yeah.
people. sense of that they don't have to know where it comes from. They'll just feel it, hopefully, you know.
Yeah, they feel it. And then I love like going back and then looking up somebody's bio and saying, oh, like, I didn't know you like Ministry or, certain things that you mentioned just now. I'm like, oh, yeah, like what a great band. Something to then like look into if I don't know it, I think is a beautiful thing. Like, oh, well, Eric likes it and he's influenced by it. So let me go check out a new band. So it's kind of this cool rabbit hole. When you do mention these people that have you know, built your musical listening. And then now to have, like you said, it's hard to pigeonhole, just one genre, especially these days, because we're influenced by so much and we're so lucky to have so many influences. So that's really cool that the Nevilles got to teach you, the funk, the rhythm kind of stuff, and you took that, but then also continue that within the music, but that's not totally where it's focused. Um, it's cool. So being in New Orleans, I'm sure you've played the Jazz Fest or been around New Orleans Jazz Fest that just wrapped up earlier this month, correct?
Yeah, yeah, we were in the blues tent this year, which was really cool. You know, you get we packed it out. I mean, by the second or third song, it was pretty packed in there, and that's a great feeling. Uh, it's just a great. There's something really special about Jazz Fest. I mean, just looking back at all the people that have played the festival and all the people that really made it a momentous occasion that they were playing. It's not just playing any old festival. It's especially for a New Orleanian. It's it's just this highlight of your it's sort of like an inflection point or a just a dot along the timeline. Your Jazz Fest appearances, they feel significant for some reason. And I think maybe that's just because it's had so much significance for other people who've played, and some of the live records that have come out of Jazz Fest. But uh, and then, it's not just, I mean, these days especially, it's not just the festival. There's the festival grounds themselves during the day, but then at night there's shows all over the city. So we did about probably four other shows around the city, uh, either at night or, we played a little mini festival in the days between two weekends of Jazz Fest.
Ooh,
There's a few of
yes.
those now. Uh, so it's a big thing. There's a lot of people in town, and you also cross paths with a lot of musician friends and stuff. Like you're able to catch up with people because there's a lot of people that are in town for it. But yeah, it's a really great time. I was really glad to be back this year because last year we were overseas during it, so we had to miss it last year. But uh, but yeah, I hope to keep being a fixture of Jazz Fest because it's a really it's an honor to perform there.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's got to be a beautiful feeling to be able to sleep in your own bed after after a jazz fest too, right? Get to go
Yeah,
home.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's I feel like the city really comes alive. I mean, it's always pretty alive, but it definitely there's a buzz around the city during Jazz Fest, and it's music focused. You know what I mean? There's a certain buzz around the city during Mardi Gras too, but it's not as music focused, at least not in the way of that I have something to do with. So, yeah, it's cool to kind of be able to dip out and do some of it, and then also, take a night in if you need to take a break, and because
Yeah, you need that. It's a
yeah,
marathon. And it's so much. I mean, you
yeah,
could literally not stop if you wanted, like you said, those after shows, and the collaborations that are happening for the late
yeah.
night shows are just incredible. Was there anybody this past year that you got to see or collaborate with that you were grateful for?
Yeah, I mean, I got to run into the guys from the record company, the band, the record company, and those guys are friends, and got to see them, and always love seeing them. And Luther and Cody Dickinson from North Mississippi All Stars, hung out with them a bit. Um, I had a show at the Maple Leaf, and my buddy Eric McFadden sat in, and Eric, he played with George Clinton back in the day, Eric Burden, um, and he's always great to jam with. I didn't have my sets. I really focused for the most part on just giving people the trio show that we did. Other than I believe Eric sat in um, on that one show, but partially just because there's people from all over the place, and they're in town, and I kind of wanted to give people an opportunity to see the band. Um, and so, there's a lot of around Fest, there's a lot of people that do like tribute shows, like a tribute to the Grateful Dead, a tribute to, whatever,
Prince,
Little Feat
Steely
or
Dan. Yeah,
whatever.
I've seen
Yeah,
some of those. Yeah.
a lot of stuff, and that's all cool. But, for me, my shows were just original um, shows, and but still, I think there was a couple jams in there that I'm forgetting, but it all kind of it's hard to keep track. But yeah,
Oh, it
uh,
is.
but it was a lot of fun.
I love that. That's really cool. It's right in your backyard and just a really amazing place to go. I was just thinking as we were talking that I turn 40 next year and maybe it's time to take the whole family down to Jazz Fest because my birthday is May 1st. So it's right smack
Right.
dab in the middle of that. Yeah. So I'll have to come see you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, tell us about what to expect June 4th here at Evanston Space. First, have you played Evanston Space before? And also what the trio is going to be bringing to us.
Yeah, I have actually played Space. The first time I played Space, I was opening for Tab Benoit, who I toured with for a couple of years after
Wow.
he my first record. Yeah, we were rolling together for a couple of years, and Space was one of the first shows I opened for him. Um, and I may have done it again too. I can't remember, but I did play Space with my band headlining. I think that was yeah, it was last year. And toward the beginning of the year. So it's been a little while. But yeah, I mean we love the room. It's such a great sounding room. It's like pretty much like playing in a recording studio. So that's always really cool when you know that people are getting a good experience and they can hear things and they sound really good. So I think it's a great quality of it. I would definitely put it up there with, some of the top venues that I've played for an intimate type show, and good sound and everything. Um, but yeah, we really like to go with the moment, and I always like to keep things fresh. So I don't even write a set list. We kind of go in and feel it from the crowd. Um, and a lot of the time the vibe of the room will tell us which way to go. And we always try to um, bring something fresh to the songs. So, even if we're playing a song that we played last time we were there, it won't be the same. Um, and that's what I love about these moments with people at these shows is they're, that's the moment, and it's like we had this time together, and it was this one unique special night that we share, and so, we always we give it everything we have, and the trio is I love playing with these guys, and we always take it somewhere that surprises us, even usually at some point in the show. So yeah, it's a good time. We had a great time there last time, and I was actually disappointed that I didn't get it recorded because it was so
Ooh,
good. So just the vibe with the crowd and everything, it brought the band somewhere that was really exciting. So I might have to capture it this time, but
yes. I know. It's always a feeling I do that with the radio show. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that. Like, you don't get it recorded. So sometimes you just have to say, you know what, that was a beautiful moment in time. And
yeah,
the people who
yeah,
were there got to feel it. And I know how it felt. But I'm sure it'll be the same. Like you said, it's like a recording studio in there, and you're hearing all the sounds. They do take care on the sound of that venue, and it's just a beautiful place to be. I think they actually just opened a brand new patio they just launched, so
Mhm.
there's also that aspect too, and that great pizza place next door. Space is the place, as someone said before.
Yeah, yeah, Sun
Yes,
Ramen.
Sunrise.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's great, and those folks over there are great. So, and we always like playing in the greater, Chicago area, and we've played a couple places in the area, but that's a really special spot.
It really is. Being outside of Chicago, but still very close. I like getting to Evanston just because it's a different vibe, but it's still Chicago, and it feels like home. I've seen so many good blues and jazz artists at Space, and it's just what you're gonna get there. It's quality music and quality staff and listening crowd. People know that they're going there to listen, and I've had moments where you have to look at somebody and be like, "Can you keep it down? I'm trying to listen. We're too close to this guy that like you can't. I don't want to hear
Yeah,
about your wife's issue or whatever it is because it's a
yeah.
listening room." How do you deal with stuff like that? If anybody's being too loud or maybe a heckler. Does that ever happen where you have to kind of like stop the show and go, "Hey guys, quiet down and listen in," or does your sound
Well,
just
thankfully,
blare them out?
yeah, exactly. Well, thankfully with the band, we're loud enough. I mean, we try to keep it reasonable, but we rock out. So usually I'm not that bothered by conversation, and we typically tend to have a good engaged crowd that's not distracted. I feel like we managed to shake everybody into uh paying attention one way or another. But I do think that there's something that I have noticed. I notice it more when I'm in the crowd watching other people. And sometimes I'll be, at a show and I'm just thinking, how did all these people pay to see this band just to talk the whole time? And there's a part of it where like I totally get, you want to go, oh man, did you see that? Or that's great, or whatever, or that's cool, what is that guitar, or whatever it is, like I totally get it. It's not like you expect everybody to be silent or anything, but I do think that there is something to be said for allowing yourself to really be in the music and not just go, oh, you know what that reminds me of, and then like launch into another thing to your friend.
Right.
And I think people do that kind of automatically. It's like trying to name and categorize everything rather than just being in the experience. And it's it's a challenge. You know, we uh we do so many things I think that are like fracturing our attention these days. The cell phones and everything I think are kind of making it a little bit you don't tend to sit down and just listen to a record anymore. Like that used to be a thing, and now it's rarely a thing, I think. There's only certain people that actually put on music, listen to it like it's a movie, you know. Usually music is on while you're doing three other things. And I just think that there's something about that to the extent that you can, I think it's really can be a awakening experience to, be at a show and just allow yourself to be in the music for a while, you know. Um, so, but again, I mean, I don't, people can do what they want.
Yeah,
Like I
they
said,
pay
I can
for
turn it up.
it. Right. Yeah. You scratch your head like, wait, you paid that money for this? But and I think you're right. We're first of all distracted by so much with the cell phone and just trying to make sure we got everything in our own lives done, and then we finally get a chance to go out and sometimes talking about the guitar that you're playing or the sound might lead into something about something totally not about the show. But luckily you guys play a power trio that can kind of quiet people down or let them just really command their attention. But that's a good point. It's like, you're not too concerned when you're on stage, but when you're in the crowd, you notice it more, I think. I do as like as an audience member. It's just like, okay, let's be quiet, let's listen. But if you have a band like yourself, like you're saying, it's gonna blow their socks off. They're gonna have to be commanded to listen anyways. And that's what they're there for, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think rock music should make it easy to talk over. I always feel, there's certain venues where you go and I mean, especially like there were certain countries in Europe where we played a venue and maybe their concept of what which I shouldn't say this across the board because most of them rock out, but there was a couple places you go and their concept of like, well, people won't be able to talk to each other in the front row or something, and it's like, why would you want the music to be uh, you know, so low that people can have a casual conversation in the front row. Like I don't understand that, but maybe that's
Right.
the kid that was inspired by arena rock in me. I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at your tour, and it looks like you kick it off coming up here on the 28th. So just next week, you'll be hitting Decatur,
Yeah.
Alabama, and Arkansas, Tennessee. Oh, Evansville, Indiana. I love that spot. And then you'll be coming out to us on the 4th, and that's in Evanston. It's space. What is something that you can't leave home without on tour? Obviously, you got to bring the axe, but what else do you have to bring with you to make sure that the tour
Well,
is good?
other than the gear, I guess, which is obvious, but to be honest, it's my little travel kettle. I have a little cylindrical kettle and I have an AeroPress, and so which is like a simple like coffee making thing, and so between those two, I can, have a good coffee in the hotel room. I got my own coffee grounds and everything. So I can make tea and I can make a good cup of coffee from my backpack wherever I am. And that I would say would be the number one thing, aside from the gear and the strings and all the stuff that you need. But yeah, being able to make a good coffee, no matter where you're at, that's pivotal for me. So so that yeah, that's definitely the
I love that.
necessity.
That's awesome. I would definitely be in that same boat. I love having just a good cup of coffee too. Knowing that you're not just going to get the gas station coffee is a huge win, I'm sure, on tour. It's the little
Yeah,
things.
well, the hotels are just
Oh yeah.
they leave a lot to be desired as far as the coffee situation. So
Yeah.
I've learned that it's best to take matters into your own hands and be prepared in your own setup.
Absolutely. It's the only way. I mean, literally. I love it. Well, you guys have a safe travels out here. And we're really excited to see you. We're going to give away a pair of tickets to the show after we close up here. Any tune you would want us to play as we head out? We heard a few things. We heard so far we did Undertow, The Deep and Dirty, and we also did Yellow Moon, your live version, of course. Anything you want us to play or anything we should hear to get us pumped for the 4th?
You know, I would say, if you haven't done Don't Hold Back, do that. You Get played a
Give me
live
that.
or the studio version. I'm good with either. Um,
Tell me a bit about that
Whatever.
tune and why it's the one you picked.
I think it just for me it just it has a good feel and it sort of encapsulates the way that we try to approach the show, is to not hold back and just recognizing the amazing thing of being alive here in this moment and just really living it to its fullest and giving it everything you got and that's sort of the vibe that I get from that song. And it also um has a funky halftime uh groove that, you know, really always is fun to play. And it's heavy but kind of a head bobber, so I always like that one.
Nice. There's nothing like heavy, stanky funk, subtle funk that comes in
Mhm.
and grabs you. So Oh, I'm excited to hear this. And this would be the last track on the brand new Live in Mississippi record. Um, where was this recorded?
This was recorded at a place called Ground Zero in Biloxi. And they have two of them. They have one in Clarksdale and one in Biloxi. And yeah, we just kind of thought, well, the previous live thing I did was in New Orleans, and Mississippi is another place that a lot of the Delta music that has inspired me comes from, um, it's a nice room, and we knew we could capture it well. So yeah, we did that, just toward the end of last year, and just came out really well. I had it, mixed at the same studio in Austin where I did the Deep and the Dirty, and then had it mastered up at Jack White's Third Man Records in Detroit, and yeah, it came out really good.
Nice. Well, we're excited to play it here. Don't Hold Back coming up next, and a pair of tickets for you to come see Eric Johanson at Space on the 4th of June, which is right around the corner. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit back with us and just talk music, Eric. It was really nice.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We'll have to have you in the studio next time and have you sign the walls and check out our space. And I'll check you out at Space coming up in just a couple weeks here, not even.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Eric. Safe travels. Enjoy your coffee, and we'll talk soon, bud.
Have a good one.
Thank you. It's WZRD Chicago, 88.3 FM, The Wizard, Chicago's home for freeform since 1974. We're going to hear live in Mississippi. This is the tune, Don't Hold Back. And do what Eric told you. Don't hold back. Let it all hang out. Go for what you want and believe in the music. It's The Wizard.
Good.